show this much Morrisonite in one place for sale. I don't think in my 20 years I have experienced this much of this rock available on the market.
See, with all of you out there who don't have anything to do, you'd be digging into boxes that you haven't seen for years. Well, there were some boxes and some stuff that's way back in the basement, very, very deep, and they've been exposed.
The vault has been opened.
Yes.
And it's been closed again. So this is it. So I got to cut some myself. Some of the rough Jean allowed me to cut. Thank you, sir. And it was amazing, just being able to cut that many pieces of Morrisonite all at once, and seeing just how wonderful and beautiful those patterns really are, and how praised this jasper really has become in our industry, and why. And it's written all over those pieces today. So we have 124 items for sale tonight. And as we start our feed here, I think we'll just jump into those boxes real quick.
All but one are Morrisonite?
All but one. That's right. Evan's pick of the week is not a piece of Morrisonite. So, can we do the boxes? So, those of you who have commented on our feeds in the past, especially last week, your name got into this box. And with that said, we want to encourage you to comment tonight during our feed now. Say hello, whatever it is. I love rockhounds. I love Morrisonite. Your name will get into this box for next week. And next week we will be covering Koimito agate. So the name that Jean picks out of this box is the person who is going to have a 20% off coupon on anything they purchase today. 20% goes to
Bill.
Can you show that, please, Evan? Thank you. Bill Gomer. Congratulations. Thank you for being our customer. You get 20% off anything you choose to buy tonight. Anything. No limitation. Oh, next box. Just because we want everyone to have fun. There are 124 numbers in this box, and our items tonight are priced between $25 and $2,000 a piece. So keep that in mind if you're bidding on this number early, what you're committing to. 124 items in this box. Whatever number Jean picks out is going to be half off tonight. First person to text and comment this number is the person who gets that item half off. You can text or comment that number now. You can wait until the item is shown. Whew. Or 111. That's a very lucky number.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so that's the boxes. So this is how the rest of this show works. Those of you who are joining us live for the first time, we are going to do a small talk with Jean about the area where this rock comes from, and then we'll start our live feed. And when we start our live feed, Jean and I will continue our interview and conversation throughout the showing of the items. However, Evan and I will be showing you items with numbers and prices on them. And if you are interested in purchasing that item, simply comment that number in the feed. The first person to comment that number is the new owner of that item. And we will be reviewing all of the comments when our feed is over with, and be contacting you afterwards with a invoice and a PayPal request, or we can receive payments over the phone. It helps if you've never been a customer of ours before for you to send us a message through the Jump Shop page here, so we have a way of contacting you later. Okay, so should we start? Morrisonite?
Okay.
Where does it come from, Jean?
Yes, I think when we did the picture jaspers, I neglected to show this map again. So this is the Graveyard Point area is right here, and the picture jasper area is right around, is here.
Pen.
Oh, pen. Yeah. This is the Oahe Reservoir, or the lake created by the dam here, and this is the Oahe River. If you go right down here, you see the river makes a little S curve. It kind of goes along, goes north, goes back south, and then heads north again. The Morrisonite jasper is along the east side of the canyon here, right in this area. It's another reason why this part of the country is such a popular rock hounding area. Okay, so that's where it is.
Okay, and the difficulty of getting there.
Yes.
We heard the stuck in the mud story earlier.
Yes, we did a stuck in the mud story.
But can you just briefly describe what it takes to get from Homedale, Idaho to the mine?
To get there, you take Highway 95 south until you get to the Idaho-Oregon border. You cross the border, and you go to about mile marker 11 or thereabouts, and you'll see a road that goes off to the right called Jordan Craters Road. This is a gravel road, and of course in 1986 when I was using it, it was in much worse condition than it is now. Now it's much improved. The road runs generally west, and there is a small reservoir called Blowout Reservoir and a little cattle guard or a little cattle corral thing there, where another road goes off to the north. You have to take that road. This is strictly a four-wheel drive road over the top lava plateau, and that takes you to the canyon rim. At the rim, you can see the whole Oahe Valley. The canyon is about 2,000 feet deep, and there the road gets very tricky. When you drop off and go down, you can at the canyon rim you can see the two cabins that were built in the Morrisonite area. If anybody wants to go there, I mean, it's a public road, you can go there, but I would not go there alone. You need four-wheel drive vehicles, and it would be always better to go with two vehicles rather than one, because there's very little recourse if you have problems.
Would you like to talk about this pedestal rock we have here?
Oh, yes.
Hey, Evan, could you come up here, please? So this shows the host rock on the outside. Talk about this rock with us.
This happens to be a piece from the Christine Marie, but the jasper is formed in what's called a welded tuft. And this is just an example of what it looks like, and I wanted to show this because it tells something about the difficulty of mining and what it's like. I'll just spin it around here. And there you can see a bunch of jasper in the rock. So if you're out there looking at the rock and you see this, there's nothing there. There's a little tiny smattering of stuff here, and then there's a little piece there. And well, should you break this or not? Well, I guess you should have.
Well, good choice.
But there's tons and tons and tons of this kind of rock where you can just break it up in small pieces and you will find nothing. The jasper veins are not, they are veins, but they do not go for very long. They often start out as a very thin little vein and then get bigger and end up where another rock crosses it, and then they stop. So mining the rock is very frustrating and very difficult in terms of the finding it.
Okay.
It means a lot of hammer work.
Hammer
and
and
not
chisel.
much rock.
And not much rock. So,
Yes.
I mean, there have been mining operations where you come back with 200 pounds and it was successful.
Yes, in the 11 years that I mined, I think the worst year was like 120 pounds.
Wow.
And these are month-long
Month-long mining operations.
or a little bit longer, month-long operations. And
All right.
the best one was around 1,000.
So we're going to go over here. We're first going to cover this first section here that has a number of the different claims represented. We have Jake's Place, Christine Marie, and Veronica Lee. And I thought I would start showing these pieces by first saying our price range tonight is $25 to $2,000. So we have something for almost everyone, I hope. And there are certain special items tonight that are referred to as collector slabs or collector pieces. Those pieces are going to be paired with a certificate of authenticity if it applies, and also one of Jean's mining Morrisonite blog books. So those are special kind of package items that you'll see on the table tonight. This first section, though, Jean, will you talk about the 5 claims and what they are, and a little bit of history about the claiming of the area?
Okay, I'll say a little bit more about this at the end. But
zooming in.
Originally, between 1971 and 1975, there were 5 claims filed
real close with the
on the
camera?
Morrisonite deposits.
Not you. Take the camera. off
Ed
and-
Brandt filed 2 of them, and he
Like we did
named
last
them
time.
the Amy Ellen and Christine Marie after his daughters. Another claim is called the Big Hole claim, and it was filed by Norris. Over the years, there has been changes in the claims and the claim names because of one thing or another. The Big Hole claim eventually became the Jake's Place claim, was also for a while called the Meadowlark. So those 3 names, or claim names, all refer to the same ground. The Veronica Lee claim and the LJM claim were filed after 2 of the original 5 claims were declared abandoned by the BLM.
All right, here's number 12. You want to set up, Evan? Where'd you go? It. This is number $12, $65. I can't. Yeah, that's better. Thank you. This is actually a piece of Jake's Place.
Yes.
This is number 12 for $65. And this is a unique piece for Jake's Place. It doesn't have the common green in it. It's more olivey green. Number 1265. Do you want to keep talking about the claims?
Well, I am asked how I got into the Morrisonite claims or started there. And actually, even though I worked there for so long, I had no intention or desire to mine Morrisonite. I kind of backed into it, and it was more of an accident than anything else. In the early 1980s, a man named Larry Butler called me and said that he owned 2 Morrisonite claims, wanted me to go look at them because he knew that I was planning on going out and mining in the area and wanted to know what I would think about doing that. So I made a trip out there for other reasons as well. Got lost trying to find the Morrisonite claims, but eventually found them and walked down and looked at them, and I really wasn't very impressed at first because there was little pieces of jasper showing here and there in the cliffs, but it did not look to me as being very mineable. Anyway, so I was there for Larry Butler. I looked it over, made some notes. I went to the BLM office to check on the claims and where they were because I could not find all the stakes, and discovered in the BLM office that 2 of the claims were abandoned. So I filed over those and named one the Veronica Lee and the other the LGM.
After your 2 beautiful daughters, of course.
Yes, of course.
Although I'll tell you, because he walked away, he spelled my name wrong.
Well,
The Veronica.
I was in the BLM office. Trying
Yeah,
to do things
he was under
quickly.
pressure. It was very sweet.
Okay, I'm going to show you some pictures and try to indicate where these are.
Okay, one more
Yes,
here,
yeah,
Jean.
okay.
Okay. So this is 19,500. Such a beautiful piece. Look at that egg pattern, the striations. This is definitely a Jake's Place. It measures 3 3/4 by 5 3/4 across. All right, what's that picture?
Okay, these are 2 pictures. Can I bring them over here? Or?
Yeah, I got it. Okay.
Okay.
Is this top
Okay.
one here?
This is about halfway down to the river, looking to the southeast. The road into the area from the lava plateau comes in above here, and above there are the cabins. The Switchback Road runs down this canyon back and forth like this. And right behind this rock here is the Jake's Place or Big Hole Mine. This is the area where most of the Morrisonite has been mined from. The road continues its switchbacks down here.
Yep, you got it.
Goes across the bottom of this, all the way over to here. And the Christine Marie claim sits along this slope like this in a rectangle. The Big Hole claim sits like this above the top here. The Veronica Lee borders the end line of the Big Hole claim and extends this way. And the Amy Ellen, you can't see, it's around the corner.
So it's all in this one clustered area.
Yes,
and you can
they're
visit
all-
them all on the
They're
same.
all adjoining.
Yeah.
Right. This photo is taken from over here, and
It's taken from over here
you're over
onto the Christine
this.
Marie, right?
looking onto the Christine Marie. So the Christine Marie sits as a rectangle, kind of like that. The Big Hole claim claim is up around the corner here, and you can kind of see this big rock here. That's referred to as the pinnacle. Everybody who goes to the Morrisonite area
Let me see here.
knows about the pinnacle, and that's the Amy Ellen. Amy Ellen ends here and goes up into that canyon.
All right, we're going to take a break from talking and show you 2 of our collector pieces that we have tonight. First one here is from the Veronica Lee claim, with that certificate of authenticity, as well as Jean's signed Morrisonite book. This is number 20. It is $1,500, and there's a story behind this piece, isn't there, Jean?
Yes. Later in the, this has been in about 1984-85, I agreed to sell all my interest in Morrisonite claims to a man named Stuart Porteous. This was a very complicated agreement that we had made and allowed me to mine for 4 more years until 1986. In that agreement, when I mined the Veronica Lee, Stuart Porteous was to get 25%, and I mined that. And when we got done, there was so much rock, but it was all kind of general except for this one huge, fantastic piece. And this slab is from that piece. We could not split up the rock because of that piece. So we decided to take the rock and cut it into slices or slabs and then divide those up. So there was, I believe, 12 or 14 slabs off of that rock. And then Stuart Porteous got some, we got some, and Jake got some.
This is the next collector piece we have with that certificate available. This is number 18. It is $850. It's from the Christine Marie claim. This is mined by Jean. And it has just absolutely fantastic egg pattern with multiple colors going across the surface with that deep dark green background. Very traditionally a Christine Marie at its best. $850 for number 18.
This is another slab off of the one, or next to the one that was posted this week.
Didn't you have a close-up of this one posted somewhere?
Yes, there was a... It wasn't this slab, but it was the one next to it, but it was in this area.
Okay. So we have a few cabs now that I'm going to show. Well, Jean, what are you going to talk about? Are you going to talk about your first time out there or how you got involved?
I wanted to say something about the difference between the Christine Marie Jasper and the Jasper from the Big Hole claim.
Okay.
The Christine Marie...
These are Christine Marie, are they?
Yes.
Are they?
Yes.
Yeah, these are Christine Marie cabs, so I'll start with those.
The Jasper at the Christine Marie does not have the variety of pattern that the Big Hole Jasper has. It's either plain or has egg pattern in it. So when I was mining, you generally kept all the Jasper that had egg pattern and threw everything else away. Also, it is much smaller than the Jasper found in the Big Hole claim. In the Big Hole claim, you could find some pieces that weighed 20 or 30 pounds, but I don't think there's ever been a 20 or 30 pound piece found on the Christine Marie. It's all smaller. That collector slab of Christine Marie, shown just before these cabs here, is extremely large for the Jasper from that area.
We have a question coming up here, and yes, I wanted to actually encourage people to comment your questions while Jean's here. This is a live feed and a live conversation, so if you have questions for Jean that you've just been dying to ask this guy, let's ask him. You have a question there that was delivered to you from Isaac?
I just have a question about collecting, and it is like I explained a little earlier about Graveyard Point. Okay, so does anyone know if rock hounds have to contact anyone for permission to go mining at these 5 sites? Well, I would say, yes, you can't go mining, but you can go collecting. You can go looking.
You can look, but you can't have any tools on you.
But you can't actually do any.
Every
any
citizen
mining.
of the United States has the right to
Right.
roam a public land area.
I repeat that it is still a very, very difficult place to get to. Most people who visit the area will drive to the canyon rim, drive down to the cabins, and maybe walk down to the Jake's Place mine, but fail to walk further down to the Christine Marie. It is another quarter mile and down another 400 or 500 feet. So most people don't even know exactly where the Christine Marie claim is. It is possible to get to the area from below. You can drive down Birch Creek Road all the way. There's a place you can camp down there. It now belongs to the BLM. and you can hike up to the deposits. Then it's a climb of 1,000 feet or so in about a mile distance.
So you're saying it's not for the faint of heart either?
No.
I've spent days out there and even in my 20s and being winded and exhausted by the end of the day. Evan, you've been out there. Do you remember being out there? No? Okay. Next on the live feed, we're going back to some smaller specimens. I would like to ask Jean at this time, how did you find out about Morrisonite? And how did you decide to first mine it?
Okay. I was out in this particular rock hounding area, and when I came back and was going to go out again the next year, a man named Larry Butler called me, and he's from Minnesota, and he told me that he has 2 Morrisonite jasper claims and wanted me to go look at them with the idea of finding out whether he thought I could mine them or it would be mineable and so on. So and the next year, I arranged a trip out there and got lost looking for the Morrisonite area, but finally found it. And made some notes and came back and reported back to Larry. And that's when I went to the BLM office and got the 2 claims called the Veronica Lee and the LJM. Oh, another question.
You got another question from Isaac there? What does it
Yeah.
say? Thank you.
This is the question. What is the current situation regarding the mining of Morrisonite? Is it exhausted or still being found? Okay, I'm going to answer this question at the end of the feed, and but I'll answer the last part right now. The deposits are not exhausted. There is still a lot of jasper there. The situation there is very, very complicated, and I'll go over some of the situations that are involved at the end of the feed.
Okay, so back to Larry Butler. He had these 2 claims. You had made an agreement with him?
Yes, after I got started mining, I had an agreement with Larry to work the Christine Marie, and he got some rock for what I did for my work. While this was going on, it became a man named Gene Anthus, which many of you might know as a Bruno miner, came to see me out there, and he said, "Gene, I own half the Christine Marie. I'd like to sell it to you." He needed some money, and at this point, I did not know this. Larry did not tell me that he only owned half the Christine Marie. So I made an agreement with Gene Anthus and bought half of the Christine Marie, and from then on, I worked because it was my claim.
So that's how you began ownership of one of the claims.
Right. So at that particular point, I actually had 2.5 of the Morrisonite claims.
So you had LJM, Veronica Lee, and half of the Christine Marie.
Correct.
And when you gained ownership of the Christine Marie, did your game plan change a bit when you went out there mining every year? You started to build that road, right? How did you start building that road?
Okay, I have another question here. how do you decide on where to cut the rock or slice the stones?
Ooh, right now, and actually,
answer that?
that's
What
a
did
great
you do?
question. Morrisonite is so much fun to cut because you really can't cut it in the wrong direction. There might be something that might be a better choice than another, but cutting it lengthwise on a very small seam, like if I can back up a second, number 37 didn't look like much. It's a very tiny little seam, not much color. Cut straight across the width of the seam, and you see all that pattern exposed. Very unusual colors with this one, lavender and pale yellow. Very dramatic though. Morrisonite is wonderful to work with. It cuts nice. It sands nice. It polishes up beautifully. That fine grained jasper is just wonderful to work with. I wanted to also take a second to say that the pieces that I'm showing right now are pieces that I was able to cut for this week's feed. And I do have some of this rough available later for those of you who want to cut some. Where's 46, Evan? Here we go. Can you help me, sweetie? So great. Going on to 46. And Jean, can you talk to us about building that road?
When I first started to pursue mining in Morrisonite, Christine Marie, the problem was access. All kinds of things were considered on what to do or how to get down there and how to get up. Even building a tram system from the top with cables to go down there and come back up. But eventually it became apparent that the road had to be fixed up so that you could drive a four-wheel drive vehicle or some kind of vehicle down there. In my first little mining operation in Oregon, let me bend me back up a little bit. Yeah, okay. The
So it took you like 2 years to build that road,
yes,
right?
Yes.
And you had those 3 claims and you were building the road. It took you 2 years to build the road. And then you decided that going up and down the road, even with your Scout, which is part of it is still out there, you decided to build that cabin. Can you talk about the cabin at the Christine Marie claim?
Sorry, I just got another question.
Oh, okay.
Is the Kerosite jasper being found nearby Morrisonite similar in terms of formation and looks? Yeah, the Kerosite is about 6 miles due east of the Morrisonite deposits. It's the same general geologic formation, yes. It doesn't have, Kerosite does not have the range of colors that are found in Morrisonite. But the formation is very similar.
Steve Schultz owns that claim, right?
Yes, Steve Schultz owns the Kerosite claim. It was called Charlie's Pride for a while, the rock. And I don't know whether he's planning on mining it this year, but he might be. Okay, I'm going to tell a story about getting started on the road. Once it was determined that the road had to be fixed up. Now there was an old dozer cut road switching back all the way down to the Christine Marie, but it was not passable by a vehicle. So I was in Homedale and driving around in the Napa area, and I saw a sign in this guy's yard, and it said D6 dozer for rent. So I went in there and asked him, well, could you come out and build this road for me? And he said, well, I'd have to go look at it. So we drove out to the Morrisonite area, and we walked the road down towards the Christine Marie. We came back up on top of the hill, and he said, Gene, I'm sorry, I'm not bringing my machine in here. This is too dangerous. This is too steep. It's not something I'd care to do. So then I thought, well, okay, I'm going to have to get my own machine. Now, I was completely ignorant of mining and everything that needs to be done and all the dangers and so on and so forth. I just didn't know anything. But I did find out that there was a man in a small town south of Homedale that dealt in used equipment, and that he had a very good reputation. So I went to see him, and I told him, look, I'm a small miner. I need a piece of equipment. Do you think you could find one for me for next year? And he said, sure. I gave him $200 and left. 8 months later, he calls me up and says, Gene, I've got your machine. It's an old D4 dozer. It's very old, but it was owned by the Forest Service, and it's in good shape. So I bought a D4 dozer without even seeing it. Something I would never recommend anybody to do.
So I'm going to pause your story. Yeah. You had a machine. That's great. Next, we're going to do two of the collector slabs. Can you tell us a little bit about each one of these? Because these also have a little bit of history behind them. This one specifically. So the gem's actually one piece from that original collection. It's a cut slab off of one of the chunks of the original Morrisonite collection that was sold among a few people.
Yes. When Jake was working on the Big Hole claim, the mining kept getting more and more difficult, and there was a point about 1983 or 82, or maybe even a little earlier, where he decided that his very best, biggest rock, he was not going to sell in the rough anymore. People were after him for the rough, and he thought, well, okay, I am going to slice those rocks or cut slices off of them and sell the slices. These slices are in collections all over the place now. The rocks, his very best rocks, he would cut slices off of them and there'd be a chunk left. The chunk went into a collection, and the slices were usually sold at Quartzsite. And of course, Jake had a following. Everybody was at his booth in Quartzsite to buy the slices, Terry Maples and myself included. And slices would be offered for sale, and Terry Maples and I have multiple slices off the same rock in our collections. From Jake's cutting them, that's one of them.
This is a piece that you bought from Jake that came out of Big Hole 1.
This was a rough piece that we had tucked away, buried in the dust downstairs, that Jake probably mined around 1990 or so.
So these past two numbers 58 and 59, do come with that signed book from Gene. Number 60 starts our little section of Christine Marie.
I have another question.
You want to do a question first?
Okay.
Can I start showing Christine Marie?
Sure.
Okay.
Goes into determining how you price and what should the novice look for. The pricing is determined on a number of factors. One, in terms of its pattern, does it have egg pattern or not?
Yes, it does.
That's always considered a plus, and a grading system that the miners have themselves. If the rock shows any egg pattern, it goes into the high grade pile. That's one thing. Then there is some difference between the jasper that, say, comes from the Christine Marie and the jasper that's found in Jake's place. There is a great size difference. Pieces of Christine Marie that have beautiful colors and egg patterns, that size of a piece from the Jake's place claim might have been just thrown away or thrown into the low grade pile just because of its size. Because the jasper is a vein material, so a complete pattern or completeness of pattern is a rarity that also contributes. And then there's the range of color. Those are all factors that are involved.
This is a beautiful piece for a collector. It has a slightly domed surface, so it's really hard to show. But that complete egg pattern in this Christine Marie, the gold eggs and the green in the background. This piece weighs just over 1 pound. Go ahead, Jean. You have another question?
I have another question. How come the orbs in the Morrisonite are all mottled while the Bruno Jasper orbs are very clear and neat? I don't know if I would agree with that exactly. The thing with the Jake's Place Morrisonite is that there is a lot of activity, a lot of patterning that is not egg pattern and is mixed in with it. The Christine Marie Morrisonite, however, is more like the Bruno, and there is less of those of other patterns involved with it.
We're fighting all sorts of reflections. Annie, feel my pain. Okay, here's another Christine Marie, probably one of my favorites. It's very small, doesn't weigh much, but its pattern is spectacular. It's a whole rainbow of eggs.
Yeah, the range of color in those eggs is unmatched.
That is number 64 for 75. Here's another piece of Christine Marie. Number 65. Beautiful egg pattern. So the cabin, we were talking about the cabin.
Still talking about the road.
Or the road.
So I had a machine, and I had a friend who could drive the machine. So I arranged a mining trip. We went out and mined the Blue Mustang, spent a little time at the LJM claim, Morrisonite area, got it all the way to the canyon rim, and then my friend and I walked down to look at the road to see what had to be done. And he came back up and said, just like the other guy, Gene, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that. I can't do that. It's too steep. It's too dangerous. I'm not going to do it. Curiously enough, at this very same time, the BLM showed up and said, well, you can't go down there and work with that machine anyway because you don't have a proper plan of operations in effect. So we took the machine back. I stored it until next year and tried to figure out what to do. Got everything arranged out there and decided, all right, I've had 2 people tell me they can't build a road. They won't build a road, so I'm going to have to do it myself.
Nothing stops Indiana Gene. Tell him no. Twice. So
it took 2 years, or 2 mining operations of 30 days or more. They were like 4 or 5 weeks working on the road to get all the way down to the Christine Marie. And then I worked for a couple of years down there. I had an old Scout which I'd drive up and down with, living in the cabin up on the ridge. And this got to be a nerve-wracking, kind of dangerous thing, that 1.25 mile trip from the top to the bottom. And the road was very dangerous, and it became apparent that it would be better to have a cabin down below on the Christine Marie, and if I wanted to mine efficiently, I had to be able to live down there rather than live up on top of the ridge. The road was so steep that my Scout, if you did not have the gas tank full and you were coming up the road, the engine would stop. So eventually I had to have 2 fuel tanks in the Scout, my downhill tank, which was the regular tank, and my uphill tank, which was up in the back and always was higher than the engine itself. So eventually, I built a cabin down there. Let me get the cabin pictures.
Oh, I have a cabin picture.
Oh, here they are.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Here, let's show some pictures of the Christine Marie cabin here. Can I take that? That's 125 on 72. Okay, keep track where we are. Here's the one of the upper cabins. This is a cabin that was built by Tom Caldwell, and he was one of the first to mine Big Hole 1. This is the cabin that Jake built, right?
Right.
Yeah, and those are the 2 that are up on the upper rim.
Yes.
And here's the mining cabin that Gene built. And how much money did you spend on that luxurious home?
Christine Marie. You must understand that Jake and I, being miners with no money, did everything as cheaply as possible. So that cabin was built, I kept track. I spent $34 building that cabin, all with scrounged material.
What?
To the floor.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Matter of fact, where we're standing right now is on a wooden floor in our 100-year-old building here. When we bought the building, this floor had a plywood floor on top of it with simple linoleum on top of that. So we wanted to make this floor in the shop right here, and I'm sure they'll show it in a minute, because it had a nice hardwood floor underneath. We tore that plywood up. The roof of my cabin is made from the plywood of this floor.
A little bit of Cedarburg wherever you go.
Yeah.
This floor right here? Yep, that floor. There you go. So this is the last piece of Christine Marie that we have to show, and I just wanted to point out that this is from the upper cliff area.
Lower cliff, or lower cliff area.
Lower cliff area, my mistake. Number 75, $80. So it looks much different. There's two pieces of lower cliff here. That 8. Those two are from a different part of a different corner of that Christie Marie claim.
Yeah, it's up, I don't know, 300 or 400 feet from the main workings on the Christie Marie. And Jake did a lot of work there.
All right, let's start with those cabs, Evan.
Matter of fact, we have a picture over here on the wall. I can show you the lower cliff area.
Number 76 starts another series of cabs we have for sale. Next. So I'll show one more of these, Jean, and then we'll move over to you. You just hold it right there. Okay, so this is the, what is it, Jean?
The lower cliff area.
Lower cliff area. And that's that pinnacle, right? That you pointed out in the...
It's kind of across from the pinnacle.
Across, okay, I see.
The
And the Christie Marie is that way?
Yes, the main line is down to the left. Down about 400 feet and around the corner.
You're hanging on like a little spider.
There were a whole series of veins of jasper, and here and there they're a little more veiny or flat and run for distance, and they kind of followed this area in the mountain here.
Okay, back to cabs. What's next, Evan? Number 79 is 64. Most of these cabs are from the Jake's Place claim. Number 80 is 76.
I have some more questions too.
You have more questions. Awesome. Keep talking.
Okay, when do you decide to finish a specimen as a dome? That's a little bit difficult to answer, but the Christie Marie Morrisonite is so rare, there was so little of it produced, that if you have a chunk and you want to make the rock the best as possible, you want to eliminate or remove the least amount possible, then it's usually made into a dome.
So sometimes it's to save the largest specimen possible in the end.
Right.
Sometimes it's so that you don't have to cut it farther back in the rock, that you can just curve over the edge and ultimately keeping it larger.
Mm-hmm. Okay, second question. Did I understand correctly that people can go and surface collect Morrisonite?
If you can get there.
Yeah, aren't those areas still claimed? There are still some claims there. I don't know how valid they are, but you still have a right to surface collect anyway. It's
with
just a matter
no
of
tools.
Getting there.
No tools.
Yeah.
And it's always polite to have the miner's permission first.
Most,
the mine owners.
Yeah. I've tried to describe before about the deposit itself and how these rock slides are still sliding. They're still moving. The canyon is being pulled apart, and there's loose rock falling all the time. Every year, if there's a rock slide there, there is movement, and rocks change, and they fall over. So you can go there at any time, and it's possible to find a piece that was been exposed in this year's erosion.
$86 is $550 for the pair. Number 87 here, $350. This is from one of those rocks that Jake mined.
Yes.
And that you bought while you were probably mining Christine Marie, and you bought some rock from him at the mine.
Oh no, this one is earlier. Yeah, this is a slab that I purchased. There are other slabs of this rock in other collections.
You photographed this one on Facebook this week. 88
Yes.
is 65. Unusual piece, just this little cactus-like formation in there. It's kind of cute.
Another question. How long has Morrisonite been mined, and when was it first discovered? I will answer that we'll talk at the end, but I can do that real quickly. The very first mechanized mining took place in 1975 and 76. And it was discovered in about the 1930s.
Number 90 is 65 for the pair. Beautiful pattern. So you built a road, you built a cabin, and you started mining every spring for a month for 11 years.
I would stay as long as I could, and usually it was 4 weeks or 5
Dared
weeks.
according to your wife or according to the
Yes.
weather? I think a little of both, quite honestly. I was at home and I remember those years. I remember before call waiting. And of course I was a teenager at the time, and the most important thing to me was talking to my friends on the phone. And on days that Jean was supposed to call in are days that I was not allowed to use that phone, and it was the most upsetting thing for a 14-year-old to hear in the and doesn't really matter, does it? But we were always happy when the phone rang, because that means he was still alive.
Okay, I have a couple more questions. Was everything mined by hand, or could you get equipment in there? Mining by hand was extensively done from the 1950s all the way to the 1970s. The equipment went in there for the first time in the 1970s. It is not too difficult to get equipment to the Jake's Place claim or the Big Hole claim, but to get equipment down to the Christine Marie was much more difficult, and not really possible until I fixed the road.
The area is very steep. Like
It's very steep.
Your muscles of your body when you're hanging off the side of a cliff are doing enough, let alone swinging a 4-pound sledge and holding a chisel at the same time. It's exhausting work. So,
what happened with the road and your dozer is another question. Well, my buddy Jake saw that the dozer that I had, the D4 dozer, really wasn't quite adequate to do what I was trying to do. So he had a friend in Homedale that had a front end loader for sale, and got us hooked together, and I bought that loader and sold the dozer to somebody else. So that dozer, and I must say this was a 1950s D4 dozer. In order to start it, you had to first start a gasoline pony motor with a pull start, And that motor then would turn over the diesel engine to start the diesel engine. It was a real pain if you got stuck or the machine died on you. Having a front end loader, this is a case 850 front end loader, and that made the mining much more efficient.
So when we were out at Christine Marie, I remember you pointing out where the vein was going down into the earth and how the most of the rock is still buried. The good rock, the veins are buried now because of the mountain falling down on top of the hole. So what would it take for someone to actually open that up again?
Well, it would be nice to have a piece of equipment in there. The advantage of working on the Christine Marie is that all the rock is broken and fractured, even deep in the ground. So you do not have to do any blasting like you do.
Well, you won't be able
during
to do
the
that
Jake's
anyway.
place.
Sorry, post 9/11, no more blasting, Gene.
Or the use of a hammer then. I mean, that's what people are doing now
Yeah.
instead of blasting. However, I mean, with the current situation, mining cannot continue there now with equipment. Ironically, it would still be possible to mine by hand because the rock is broken. You don't necessarily have to have a machine to move it. You just have to work hard to get it out by hand. The jasper itself is so thin or so scarce in the deposit that unless you know where something is exactly, it would not be very practical.
Okay. Number 101 is a slab off that you've seen a few of these tonight from the same rock. Definitely a collector piece. Very large. What does this one measure, Evan? I can't read it from here. Can you help me out? Number 101.
4.5, 7 bucks.
4.5 by 7.
Beautiful pink eggs.
Yeah. Got it? Number 102 is 85. Okay. I like this one. Number 103, 85. It does have a sanded edge here and a cut edge here. But beautiful pattern inside. Nice minty green to deep green, blue green, yellow. Here we go. Number 104 is 65. So you have a lifetime of stories about Morrisonite, Gene.
Yes.
So those mining operations, you built the road, you built the cabin, you started mining, you had this agreement with Larry Butler, you bought the Christine Marie claim. So then what? You started mining for yourself? You were out there tell me about your first time you met Jake, because Jake is such an important character in your life.
Yeah, I actually met Jake, I think, at a rock show, I think it was a Nissa rock show. And I think I had some questions about going out to Morrisonite or something, and he answered them, and he seemed like a really cool miner dude.
Cool miner dude, Jake. This was the start of your lifelong friendship, really.
When we came to the Morrisonite area at the same time in 1986, but we were not working together. He had leased the Big Hole claim from Tom Caldwell's wife after he died. And I had just made the arrangements with Larry Butler to develop the mine on the Christine Marie. So we both moved out there at the same time. Over the years, I got to know Jake very well. He acted as a mentor for me. He taught me everything I needed to know about mining. He encouraged me when I was down. And near the end of our 11-year period of mining, we did work together on several of the claims, as which was allowed as part of our agreement with my sale to Stuart Porteous.
So here we're starting another section of our live feed, and this is 4 of those collector slabs that are coming with the book tonight. Here's one off of, this is number 108, 950 on this slab. Evan, can you hand them to me? That's really helpful. This is probably one of the better slabs off that rock. It's really beautiful pink webbing and eggs. This one measures 5 by 7 inches. Okay, number 109 is a different rock. 1,000 on this one. 109.
That's one of Jake's rocks.
This
there
is
are multiple. I didn't really finish telling about the collection. Slabs from this rock in various collections. Just for everyone's information, the rocks that Jake had left after he had cut the slabs off went into a collection, and that collection was sold to Betty Warrington. Betty Warrington took a slab or two off of some of those rocks, added a few, and created a little bit larger collection, which was sold to Tom Lane. Tom Lane also added and subtracted a few rocks and sold that collection to Rick Motchel. Rick Motchel contacted us sometime later and asked us if we would sell that collection. And we had that collection on display in Tucson for 3 or 4 years.
2 to 3 years.
2 to 3 years until it sold for over $30,000. Some of the slabs from those rocks are in Betty Warrington's collection and in various other collections all over the country.
This is number 111. That's a magical lucky number.
Whoa.
First person to bid on number 111 gets this half off. This one is 4.5 by 7.5. A few more pieces for you while we finish up our live feed here, and then we're going to go to a story of the situation of Morrisonite.
Yes.
Number 112 is 850. This is another piece off of that big rock that you slabbed up from Jake. And what's exciting is that I scavenged away pieces out of this show for the review show. So there are more pieces of Morrisonite to be had one last time before that vault is totally closed for another 10 years. This is number 113, 600.
Quite a range of color in that.
Number 114. Can you tell me about this rock? Do you remember this rock?
That is a later rock. I think I actually dug that one up off the Jake's Place claim in probably 1985.
When you do that. Can you go? Am I too close to you? Just tell me to move. Oh, I just didn't want you to stand in the light, that's all. Number 115 is 45. It's a little vein, cut and polished face. Okay. This is number 116. This is 150. Why is this camera not focusing? Ah, I didn't want to do that. Help, Evan. Oh my gosh. Is this tightened here? Okay. Oh, it's a mythical thing. The vault. Okay, 117. $200 on 117, another slab here. This is another Jake's Place. Really dramatic color, minty green and pink and dark green. Oh my gosh.
We have a little mining interlude here.
Mining interlude. Can I show this one because it's so beautiful?
Okay.
This piece is amazing. 118, 750. Look at that single little green circle in the center. Dramatic egg pattern, very classic Morrisonite. Well, we have two more of this section and then we have two collectors at the end. So let's put these in. Thank you, boys. 119 is 125. There were a few slabs of this piece in the feed tonight. Mm-hmm. Number 119. And number 120 is another rock off that piece.
Another slice off that same rock.
Yeah. Number 120 is 750. All right, Gene. Camera's all you. What do you got?
Okay, this is a picture of our mining operation on the Veronica Lee. The Veronica Lee and the Big Hole Claim have their end lines together right across the pit, and this is the area that one slab came from, where in the beginning of the feed.
What number is that, Evan? That Veronica Lee collector piece. The big slab with the certificate underneath it. Look on the back.
We couldn't split up the rock and had to slice the rock, and then the slabs were split.
Number 20. Okay. Do you want to show another picture? Nope. Okay. We have some requests to see a few pieces again. We'll do that quick. Hi, Robert. Number 17, 275. It's a thin slab. Beautiful. What's next? All right. Number 59 wants to be seen again, which is 900. Got another one? Okay. Number 86. 550 for the pair. Evan, how much does this one weigh? 2.5 pounds. Okay, and number 89. number 89. So, to finish up our specimen portion of the live feed tonight, we have the last two collector pieces that come with the book and a certificate. These both come with a certificate of authenticity from the Christine Marie claim. These pieces were mined by Jean and cut and polished by the Jean in the gem shop. This first one is our most expensive piece tonight, is the largest piece of Christine Marie that we have in the show, and probably one of the largest in existence. It's 2000, number 121, and it has some spectacular egg pattern throughout the stone. This one measures 4 inches by 7.5 inches across. The first collector slab, let me show its sister right now. So this is another piece off of that number. We'll show them right near each other here. This last collector slab that we have is number 122. It's $1,500. This piece is a very large piece of Christine Marie. It is a thicker slice than the first piece that you saw, and has a rainbow of eggs. And its sister, number 118.
18.
Oh, 18, sorry. This is number 122. This is 18, is for $850. Thinner and slightly angled. Beautiful pattern. Here you go, Evan. Are we doing any more requests? 33. Can you get 33, Evan? Number 33 is $35 for the pair. If you have any more requests to see things again, let us know. We will certainly try to come back and show them again. There's 2 more things. We have number 123 is Evan's Choice of the Week. He gets commission for helping us with the camera, so he gets to sell things too for commission. He has a perfect pyrite cube, 1-inch cube, number 123. So shiny, it's all over the camera here. $39.99. This is a cubical piece of pyrite crystal from Navajo, Spain. And we have one more item, and then it's all yours, Jean, okay? So backing up over here. For all of you, my cutter friends, I had fun cutting those smaller pieces of Morrisonite, and I wanted to share my fun with you. So number 124 is a mixed location bag of rough material. It's a 2-pound bag for $100. There are 12 available, and that's it. So all of these are straight, I was with no selection, straight out of the barrel of what I was cutting, and what you saw in those smaller specimens. You know, you can see here there's like 5 to 8 pieces for 2 pounds. If you're interested in one of those, it is $100 for a 2-pound lot, and we have 12 of them available. Okay. Jean is going to tell the situation story of Morrisonite. Go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can move forward a little bit so we can hear him.
This is a story with several possible endings. It is about the availability of Morrisonite and the possibility of more Morrisonite being produced. It's very complicated, and I'm going to try to clarify some of the issues and circumstances in as little time as possible. I'm not going to cover everything. I am often asked about the deposits and why there has been no production for so long. And this is my one chance to answer these kind of questions to a large group of people. There has been no mechanized production of Morrisonite since September of 1996 when Jake and I left. First, I'm going to go over a little bit of the history of Morrisonite jasper. A man named Jim Morrison settled in the Owyhee River Canyon in the early 1900s. He lived there for well over 50 years, and he was not the singer, or related to the singer, by the way. He was an avid collector of Indian artifacts and rocks, and hunted the cliffs around his property on the river. In about 1932, he showed some of the jasper he found in the cliffs above his ranch to a man named Julian Field, who named the rock Morrisonite after Jim Morrison. He took some of the rock to the Boise Rock Club and showed it to people in the Boise Rock Club. The reputation of this beautiful jasper grew very rapidly, and many people would take the long trip into Jim Morrison's ranch to collect some of the rock. At that time, the trip into his property took over a day. The article, which was written in 1948 by Julian Field, it was published in the the Sundial in 1948, is available on our website to read if you want to read about his recollection of naming the rock. Eventually, Jim Morrison made a small road from his ranch up to just below the jasper deposits. Jim Morrison was a hunter, and he and his guests would use this road to hunt geese and deer and hunt for the rocks as well. In the 1950s, Chris Christopherson, Dudley Stewart, Bud Swindler, Wayne Wagner, and Emmett and Webb Norris all used this road to get to the Jasper area. This is important a little bit later. When Jim Morrison died, a man named Marty Rust obtained Jim Morrison's land along the river, and he kind of made the property into a sort of a private hideaway. He built cabins along the river and took some of Jim Morrison's land and made a landing strip, and he would fly his plane in and out of the area when he wanted. Marty Rust would not allow anyone to cross his land to gain access or use the road up to the Jasper area. At this time, access to the Morrisonite area moved to the top of the rim. Collectors would drive to the canyon rim from the top and hike down to the deposits rather than climbing up to them from the river. When I first visited the area in 1984 or 83, there was still an old mattress on the ground at the canyon rim where people used to camp. Between 1971 and 1975, there were 5 adjoining claims filed on the Jasper deposits. Ed Brandt named 2 of them after his daughters, Christine Marie and Amy Ellen. The claim known to have the most Jasper was called the Big Hole Claim and was filed by Emmett Norris. The first major work done with machines was done in 1975 and 1976 by Tom Caldwell and Jake Jacobitz. The cabins, or lean-tos if you want to call them that, on the ridge were built at the same time, 1975 and 1976. There was no mechanized mining activity for 10 years after that, until Jake and I worked the claims from 1986 through 1996. I worked primarily on the Christine Marie, and Jake worked the Big Hole. Also, in 1976, the Congress of the United States passed the Federal Land Policy and Management Act. Part of this act asks the BLM to inventory its lands for possible wilderness designation. The Wilderness Act of 1964 was successful, and basically it was unknown what public lands under the BLM management would meet the criteria for possible wilderness designation. Wilderness Study Areas, or WSAs, were established with the same wilderness criteria. 1, they had to be more than 5,000 acres. 2, they had to be roadless. And 3, there had to be minimal human impact. The process went like this. The WSAs were selected, evaluated with an environmental impact statement written for each one. Over here we have volume 4 of the wilderness, of the EISs for the wilderness study areas in Oregon. Once these were established, they were given to the state in which they were located. The states then have to submit these to Congress for consideration. Only Congress can create a wilderness area, and Congress must decide by state which WSAs are to become wilderness and which are to be returned to the multiple use designation. According to the law in 1976, this was to be completed by 1991. Some states have completed this process and others have not. Oregon has not submitted its WSAs to Congress for wilderness consideration. The Morrisonite deposits are in the middle of the Blue Canyon WSA, or officially OR 003073. This area is about 12,000 acres and did not meet the requirements as outlined in the directive for a wilderness area. Because of this, and because of zealous environmental groups and wilderness advocates in the BLM office, they made considerable efforts to make the area acceptable for wilderness consideration. First, the road made by Jim Morrison was declared not to be a road. It was designated a way and not a road. More about this later. Second, the road from the top was eliminated from the wilderness. The border of the WSA goes down one side of the road, around the mine workings in the Big Hole claim, and out the other side of the road. Those actions allow someone to say truthfully that the Blue Canyon WSA is a roadless area with fantastic views along the east side of the Oahe River with little human influence, even though there is a road all the way through it. This also means that the land excluded from the WSA is not in the WSA, and that these lands are under the multiple use designation, including mining. A person can drive the public road into the Morrisonite area and stand on the Jake's Place mine area and not have entered the WSA, even though you are standing in the middle of it. This means that mining can continue on the land that is not in the WSA, is in the WSA. This is a very complicated and unsettled mining situation. This is a copy of RS 2477. It's a report to Congress on what is a road and what is not. The RS 2477 refers to the granting of rights of way over public lands. It defines what a road is, what it is, whether it's a trail, a road, or a way. It basically says that a road is a road if the route was constructed or improved and used for multiple purposes to go from one place to another by multiple people. The RS 2477 right was granted to the public in 1866. The Federal Land Policy and Management Act repealed that right. Any road established before 1976 on public land retains the right of access and use. Both the road from below, made by Jim Morrison, and the road from the top meet on the Christine Marie claim and were in existence before 1976. There is a road all the way through the Blue Canyon WSA. In order for the BLM to make the Blue Canyon WSA acceptable for wilderness designation, those roads had to be eliminated from the WSA. The BLM has done this on paper. Morrisonite is the finest jasper in the world. This is a statement, is not exclusively to my assessment. This is a description of how the rock is viewed by the people who understand rocks and jaspers. The best chance for more production of Morrisonite jasper is for the Blue Canyon WSA not to become wilderness. These lands would then return to multiple use, allowing mining. For this to happen, the state of Oregon must first submit its list of WSAs to Congress to decide which will become wilderness and which will not. I believe in the past that most states that have gone through this, about half of their WSAs are designated as wilderness and half are not. The state of Oregon is reluctant to do this because under the directive, the BLM is required to manage all WSAs as if they are wilderness. For those people out there who desire all public lands to become wilderness, this is a winning situation. They've achieved their goal without going through the process, despite the loss of rights to other people. The Blue Canyon WSA did not meet wilderness criteria in 1976, and it does not today. It is my belief that humanity will be better served if more Morrisonite jasper is made available to the world than if this area is closed to mining to become a wilderness area. Well, pretty biased opinion, you say. After all, I mine the rock out there a lot. Well, consider this. I have spent over 400 of my days in wilderness areas, not WSAs, but actual wilderness established in the Wilderness Act of 1964. I'll bet one of those slabs, there is not one person watching this feed who has spent that much time in wilderness. I know and understand the values that wilderness preserves. And I'm saying that the Blue Canyon WSA should not become wilderness. I'm losing my voice. So I ask you to be aware of when, if and when, Oregon submits its WSAs for wilderness consideration. There's no timetable for this. They've extended their doing this way beyond its due date. When that happens, then Congress will have to decide which WSAs are to become wilderness and which are not. I ask that you be aware of this and make sure that your congressmen do not vote to have the Blue Canyon WSA made into wilderness. That land then will return to multiple use and mining can continue.
Thank you for sharing your opinion and all of that history and the very important dynamic. I want to end today's feed by saying thank you all for watching so much. Next week, we're going to visit Mexico again and go over some Coimito agate. The materials that we will be covering next week, May 21st, live at 5. Some of them are on that shelf there. We're opening up the vault again and cutting and polishing some Coimitos like madmen this week. May 28th is our last live feed scheduled for this season. May 28th is a review week. We will have new product of all 9 featured items. Hope you can everyone can join us again. Thank you so much for watching.